Have you ever heard of these people? Mary Ellen Pleasant, Annie Malone, O.W. Gurley, Madam C.J. Walker, Hannah Elias, and Robert Reed Church. If you haven't heard of them, follow me on the other side. Hey everybody, Shomari Willis here. Many people call me the Finance Rebel. Welcome to my YouTube channel. On my YouTube channel, we talk about a lot of things, but they're all related to money. Whether it's wealth creation, taxes, investments, small business, technology sometimes. If it's about making money, we normally talk about it here. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please hit the button below and also sign up for notifications. So today we're going to talk about something that I haven't done in quite some time. We're going to do a book review. Today we're going to talk about a book called Black Fortunes. All right. I love doing book reviews. The last time I did one was about A.G. Gaston's and the book about him called Black Titan. So check that out below when you get a chance. So this book is super, super awesome. Those names that I mentioned earlier, Mary Ellen Pleasant, O.G. Gurley, Robert Smith, and Madam C.J. Walker, Anna Malone, they're all featured in this book. So this book is basically about the first black millionaires on the United States of America right after slavery. All right, and actually there even some mention of some black millionaires even before slavery was over. So this book is very, very fascinating. It interweaves a lot of the stories of these first black millionaires in the United States. And it shows a lot of common themes. It's very, very interesting. One of the things that has me really, really excited is that a lot of this story surrounds my hometown of Philadelphia, PA. So many of the people featured here in the book either went through Philadelphia, were born in Philadelphia, had some type of linkage back to Philadelphia. So it was pretty cool, to say the least. I mean, there's a couple stories in the book that really had me fascinated. One was Anna Malone, who was actually the first black hair care innovator, so to speak. Many people think it was Madam C.J. Walker. It was not. It was it was Anna Malone. Actually, she hired C.J. Walker, Madam C.J. Walker. And as a result of her hiring Madam C.J. Walker and her husband actually stole her formula and went off in business on her own. So this book, has some drama, has some soap opera-like type things, really, really gets into the day-to-day lives of many of these people. The person who I was most impressed by, the person that I was most inspired by was a gentleman by the name of Robert Reed Church. So this guy was born a slave, grew up on a cotton plantation. His mother died when he was around 12 years old, and then he went to work with his white father, working on a steamboat on the Mississippi River, hauling cotton and also passengers up and down the Mississippi from St. Louis down to New Orleans. So it was really interesting. One of the things was his dad's boat. And by the way, they did not acknowledge each other as father and son in public. Actually, they really didn't even acknowledge each other as father and son in private. It was one of those kind of known, unknown secrets, not secret type things. But they didn't talk about it. But oddly enough, Mr. Church got a lot of experience on that boat, learned how to interact with a lot of people, a lot of different people from different walks of life on that boat. And sadly, the boat caught fire, and everybody basically had to run for their lives. Now, there's a point to that why I'm bringing it up to you. His father then brought another boat. That boat was confiscated by the Confederate Army because all of this stuff was happening before the Emancipation Proclamation. Some of it happened even before President Lincoln was elected. But his dad brought another boat, went to work on that boat, and that boat was actually confiscated by the Confederate Navy. And by the boat being confiscated by the Confederate Navy, they actually took Robert Reed Church into the Navy. So they basically drafted him into the Navy and was made to fight against the Union Army. So oddly enough, after he got drafted into the rebel Navy or the Confederate Navy, he had to fight against the Union. He didn't really want to fight against the Union because he was still a slave this whole time and he really yearned for his freedom. But oddly enough, the Union Army came down to Mississippi and started to battle with the Confederates right outside of Memphis, Tennessee, and they won. But they destroyed the boat he was on that his dad previously brought, that the Confederate Army took. So this guy was on 2 destroyed riverboats. And actually this time he had to jump into the river. So after that, after he got out of the Navy, he was really unsure. And there's actually a passage in the book about that. And what I mean by he was unsure about his status because he didn't know what he was at the time. So this part was really, really interesting, right? So he says, when the battle was over, a Union ship began to close on Robert's ship, the SSS Victoria. By the way, this is his dad's ship that was confiscated. Something inside of Robert told him to flee. He followed his instinct. He walked to the edge of the boat, gathered his nerve, and jumped. With a splash, he disappeared into the Mississippi as the sun came up over Memphis. All right. So, after he came up out of the Mississippi, it says, what was he in that moment? A slave, a freed man, a deserter. Whom did he belong to? The Confederacy, the Union, his father, himself? There was only one way to be sure. He collected himself and headed towards the city, dripping wet as he had just been baptized. He was unafraid of whatever awaited him. He had just survived his second flirtation with a watery grave. So, I mean, if you really think about that for a moment, I mean, we're very much removed from slavery, several generations, but many of the same instances still exist. And if you can just try to put yourself in his shoes and empathize with him, can you imagine, one, having to have jumped off of a boat, and then two, once you jumped off the boat into the river, and you came up and you figured, well, where do I go now? Who do I belong to? Now, mind you, he's a person. He's a whole person. But he's worried about who he belongs to. Because, at that time, black people were only considered 3/5 of a human being. But after all this, he collects himself. He begins to make a life for himself in Memphis with the help of his father. But he also meets a nice young lady. And I found another passage in this book, very, very interesting, especially on the relationship front. So it says here, Robert Church's first wife, Louisa, made a small fortune dressing white women's hair and wigs in Memphis. She used her money to help her husband open his first business and buy the family's first home and a horse-drawn carriage. So clearly they were working as a team. Fast forward to 2019. By the way, this was in 1861. I think you fast forward to 2019, and many couples are having issues about who does what. How do you get forward in life? And where you had this couple that was able to kind of cobble together some money, make a good lives for themselves, and then help sow a seed into their mate's life. A lot of times I see a lot of those instances and a lot of those arguments amongst spouses, and they aren't able to figure it out. But here you have two ex-slaves who were able to, again, put their money together and move forward. Now, that was just kind of the beginning for Robert. He did subsequently get divorced. Sorry. But he built several businesses. Not only did he build several businesses, he also had several brushes with the law. That's part of the reason why I'm kind of very impressed by this. He was able to escape a lot of the Jim Crow that was going on at that time. He was able to survive several dealings with the police and Union Army at the time. Matter of fact, he even got shot in his head and survived. So this guy has like 9 lives or something. But at any rate, one of the themes that I found recurring in this book, recurring amongst these black millionaires, is that most of them, if not all of them, contributed to either abolitionist movements or Underground Railroad, but they made their money and they still remembered that their people were enslaved and their people still needed freedom and to be treated like human beings and to gain human rights. So that's very, very, very important to me. It's very, very outstanding, because it seems like that's actually a recurring theme with a lot of black business owners from back in the day, and even to this day now. There's actually an instance of Ida B. Wells and Robert Reed Church running into one another. Actually, Ida B. Wells was very fierce. She actually wrote many pieces about Robert Reed and kind of condemned him and challenged him in the press. But funny enough, Ida B. Wells got to San Francisco, was stranded there, went there for a job, didn't like it. She wrote Robert Reed Church. Think about that, mail. She sent mail to Robert Reed Church and asked him to loan her $100 so she could travel from San Francisco back out east. He did that with no expectation. And so he did many things, many acts of kindness for many people. I mean, at one point where Memphis had riots, the city practically burned down, he brought up most of the city. And there was another time that he actually brought some of the bonds for the city to help rebuild. Matter of fact, this guy was so, how can I say this? Ingenuitive. He even helped some Confederate soldiers hold a festival because he became more politically involved and became more of a diplomat as he got older. But sadly, there was a lot of racial tension in Memphis. And again, this is one of the things that I found really interesting in this book, and so many other stories in this book, is that the tensions grew so high in Memphis that many people from Tennessee started to migrate to Oklahoma. Now, if you think about Oklahoma, we're talking about Tulsa, Oklahoma, right? So he even wrote checks to help people get established when they went to Tulsa. So again, this book, I can't strongly suggest this book enough. It's a great book. I love reading these books, especially these books with black business owners and black millionaires in them, because I'm a business owner myself. And when I was growing up, I didn't really have a bunch of things like this. Didn't have a lot of resources like this. But now they're here, and now is the time that, I can take advantage of them. And there are so many more that I've read, so I'm going to be sharing a lot of those. Plus, it's Black History Month, so why not do it now? Now's the time. But there is a link below for you to purchase the book. It is an affiliate link. Just got to put that out there. If you want to get it, again, I would recommend it for you. Buy the book, talk about the book with your family, talk about it with your children especially. Again, there are a lot of different characters, outlines a lot of different things. Outlines actually how Black Wall Street came to be known as Black Wall Street. Booker T. Washington actually named it Negro Wall Street, and then they turned it into Black Wall Street. But I would strongly suggest getting this. I love it, love it, love it, love it. And read it with your family, read it with your friends, read it with a book club. So that's all I have for this, folks. Again, go get the book. If you have any other questions or any other books that you've read, any other business books that you've read, tell me about them in the comments below. Thank you all. Kamari Ellis out.